Hey guys, this is a past due review on the first Purge. What brought it back up into my mind this week was the presidential alert that we all got. Since it's been at least 3 months since the movie came out, I feel like I'm alright to just go ahead and talk about some spoilers. The first thing I noticed was some of the horror homages that happened in the movie. I thought those were pretty fun. One of my favorite characters is what I at first called him Crazy Crackhead Krueger because of the needles on his hand, but then I thought, well, crackhead is not really a good descriptor for him. He's more of a bath salts type person. The movie missed an opportunity with this character because they could have really used him to write a commentary on mental health issues in America, the lack of health care, that type of thing, especially how substance abuse is criminalized in our country. They could have went there with it, but they didn't at all. But back to more fun things. You didn't think the needles in his hand reminded you of Freddy Krueger? I was looking at the needles on his hands and also the state of his face a little bit and thought Freddy Krueger. Then there was also a character that had a machete and I was thinking, well, there's Project Voorhees right there. There was another character dressed like a Nazi, so I was thinking of calling him Nazi Gimp of the SS and his blackface militia. There were the four-wheeling tiki torch guys, and I don't know, maybe other people didn't notice it, but that's who they reminded me of because they had the khaki pants and the polo shirts or white button-up shirts, and the only thing that was missing was the actual tiki torches and them marching around saying, "You will not replace us." And of course, my favorite character, Rambro. No doubt they had these different characters to reference different things in real life. As I said, the khaki pants guys on the four-wheelers, obviously tiki torch type guys. You had the Nazi. Clearly you see what that is. There was some Klansmen in this as well. And a scene that really stuck out to me was the man that was being beaten on the athletic field. It stood out to me because it was a black character who was being beaten by other characters who were dressed like police officers, and they were on an athletic field. In this case, it was baseball, but it made me think of the football players that are kneeling to protest police violence against minorities, or more specifically black people, because we get it the worst. I mean, everybody gets it. Poor people get it, gay people get it, women get it, but usually black people are killed more frequently, there's more fatalities in it. There was also a scene of a black man being dragged down the street, and that's an incident that really happened. For my viewers outside the United States, there was a black man who was tied to a truck and dragged down the street. I believe it happened in Texas a few years ago. So, I mean, as we sit around saying the purge is not real, a lot of things that happened in the purge happen in this country. There's just not a designated holiday for these atrocities. But the biggest real life takeaway from the purge is that it was presented as a government experiment. And I saw so many reviewers saying that that's not realistic when it absolutely is, especially in the United States. Matter of fact, if you Google, and I'm going to read to you this exact term, if you Google unethical human experimentation in the United States, you will learn about a few things, like that the U.S. has a history of conducting experiments on not only people of color, but incarcerated people, children, pregnant women, and the mentally disabled, all without their knowledge or consent. Currently, as of the reviewing of this movie, the people in Flint, Michigan are still living with water that was contaminated through the actions of their local government. So some might say that the political messaging in this movie is over the top. I don't think it was blatant enough because apparently it still was going over people's heads. But then again, this year we live in a country where teenagers are dragged kicking and screaming out of a bodega and sliced up with a machete. That's real life in the United States. I was literally scrolling down my timeline on Twitter one day when I happened upon a video of XXXTentacion deceased in his car. That's not some crap I want to see. But that's the reality of living in the United States. So it's really wild to me when I hear people say that the purge is silly and could never happen. I completely disagree. I've said it before and I'll probably say it again. We're only a few years away from the Running Man, in all honesty. The most unrealistic thing about this movie was the violent crackhead. And they did present him as a crackhead because they showed him trying to purchase actual crack before the events of the first annual purge. I would say that character is more of an antisocial psychopath than just a simple substance abuser. Not that the two things are mutually exclusive, because you could be a psychopath who also partakes in drugs kind of as a self-medication thing, but I felt like that was the whole crackhead thing is what threw it off. But generally speaking, being on crack is not enough to make you into a psychopath. Speaking of mental, I really like the bag ladies that rigged the teddy bears. I thought that was hilarious to me. Sick, twisted, but hilarious. Let me backtrack to the crackhead thing again. Why it just occurred to me why it bothers me, because I used to take public transportation back in the day. So if anyone who's taken public transportation has run into a few crackheads, and for the most part, they're usually not angry or violent. They just have some kind of crazy bullshit ass story to tell you. Like I remember one time I was waiting for the bus in Constitution Plaza in downtown Hartford, and this crackhead walked up to me and said that she needed $2.37 for her daughter's chemotherapy. That the chemotherapy was $100,000, and she had all the money except for $2.37. And I think I gave her $3 just because the story was so good. I don't know whether she was telling the truth or not. That's probably just a regular random crackhead ass story, but that was really creative. For people that lived in Hartford back in the day, do you remember some of the bus people that we used to see every day? There was a guy that used to be downtown. We called him Michael Jackson because he used to dance kind of like Michael Jackson, but he had headphones on that weren't attached to anything. And this is before wireless headphones. Like the wire was just dangling by him, and he would be dancing around to, I guess, the music that was playing in his mind. And then there was another guy that was called, well, I don't know what other people called him. I called him PM Dawn because he kind of looked like the chubby dude from PM Dawn. And even with the round sunglasses, the short dreadlocks, all that. But he would wear a business suit, and he always had a briefcase handcuffed to his arm. And I would see him on the bus every day. I don't know if you remember that dude or what his real name was, but those were some of the people we... I feel like these are the people in your neighborhood. Oh, I have another one, but this one was down in Miami on South Beach. This guy rides up with a Versace shirt on and in a fixie bike, which if you know what a fixie bike is, it's like a hipster bike where they remove the gears because they want to make life hard because they haven't suffered enough. But anyways, he said that he needed money to get meat from Walgreens for his baby. And there's multiple things wrong with this crackhead story. One, you're on a customized bike, you're wearing Versace. You could sell either of those two things to get money. Two, you don't feed babies meat, if it's an infant anyways. Three, they don't sell meat at Walgreens. But crackhead stories. See, now that would have been a realistic version of crackhead in this movie, but instead we got, you know, Kruger. But suffice it to say, crackheads generally are not scary. There are, well, at least in up north, like in Connecticut, New Jersey, New York. I used to ride trains in New York all the time. Never encountered anyone that I would feel like I was afraid of until I got to Miami. There are some really angry people in Miami, angry homeless people that they are like, I don't know if it's the bath salts or the Florida zombie thing, but they're a whole different breed. And they're not crackheads. They're definitely not crackheads. I don't know what they are. Most likely they're probably mental patients, but that have no place to go because I don't think we have like full-time mental institutions anymore in the United States. So these people are just free to roam, but it's a little bit unnerving when they're angry because you don't know what they're going to do. Now, that was I really got off on a tangent. Another thing that kind of set this movie back was the CGI blood and not enough actual like on-screen fatalities. They really should have shot this more like an Italian giallo movie or a slasher film and really ramped up the violence for effect, at least in my opinion. But even though this doesn't count as a part 4, I kind of consider a part 4. It's technically a prequel, but I still think as far as installments go, usually part 4s are awful. There's only a handful of part 4 movies that you can say are decent part 4 movies. I had actually mulled it over and tried to think of part 4 movies that were decent, and all I could come up with was Rocky 4, Friday the 13th 4, the final chapter, A Nightmare on Elm Street 4. Don't at me, I like Nightmare on Elm Street 4. That had some of the best effects of the entire series, and I really like the character Sheila when Freddy Krueger said, "You want to suck face?" And she was like, "No." I love Sheila, and she wasn't in the movie enough. Insidious Last Key, people crap on that movie. I had fun. I like boo jump scares, if they're effective. Paranormal Activity, the marked ones. Again, don't at me. I like Paranormal Activity, the marked ones. I thought it was a decent part 4. Although it's not technically officially a part 4. It's more of in the same universe type movie. But it was the 4th movie that was released, so I'm calling it part 4. I actually got to circle back around because there's so many things that I forgot to mention in this movie. So this is going to be a little bit disjointed anyways. I didn't like the brother and the sister. They were really annoying. The brother kept on making dumb decisions, and the sister was super self-righteous for no reason. She was so irritating. You can be self-righteous any day of the week, but on Purge night, I'm chilling with the drug dealers and their shooters. I don't know what's wrong with you. Something else I really liked about the movie that a lot of people criticized was the Rambo character, the hero of the movie. I liked it. Maybe because I grew up with certain movies where you had you know, a very heroic character. People are sitting there going, oh, this is unrealistic for it to be like this character. But you don't have this criticism when it's the transporter. You didn't have this criticism when it was 70-year-old what's his face and Taken. You don't have this criticism when it's Denzel Washington and whatever that was called, where he worked at the Home Depot and helped the prostitute. Why do I find that funny? But movies like Death Wish, Foxy Brown, Commando, Cleopatra Jones, First Blood, China O'Brien. Anybody remember those China O'Brien movies? They used to play them on either Showtime or HBO. I don't remember which, but that's where I used to watch her on there. Anything starring Steven Seagal. They let him get away with that for years. But this one brother can't save the neighborhood. You guys remember Action Jackson and Remo Williams, The Adventure Begins. It began, but it never continued. That was supposed to be a series, but I think we only got just the one. See, they want to go around remaking stuff. Why don't they bring that stuff back? Why don't you bring back Action Jackson? Bring back Remo Williams. I would say remake The Warriors too, but I don't think it would work in this day and age because of cell phones. Like, people would just be texting each other, hey, they're at the bus station, get them. You know, I don't think that would work out too well. But there were parts of this movie that kind of remind me of The Warriors, because they had to get from one part of this, well, not to the city, but one part of the neighborhood to another part of the neighborhood. So that kind of reminded me of The Warriors a little bit. But like I said, they really cheaped out. Like, there wasn't much of a reason for this to be rated R because they didn't show us much, and they cheaped out on stuff that they really should have been over the top. Like when this one girl gets stabbed repeatedly in her abdomen, and then her shirt just has a red bloody spot on it. No, cut the shirt open, let the intestines hang out. That's what we want to see. I feel like if you're going to go there, go all the way there. Excellent examples of this in modern movies. Upgrade. When he took the knife and sliced dude's head open, that was beautiful. Oh, another one. Did you guys see Brawl in Cell Block 99? Movie starts out kind of slow, builds a story, but the ending of that movie, when he actually gets into the cell block, the stuff he was doing, obviously it's not humanly possible, but that doesn't matter. It was great to watch. For what they did in this movie, they might as well have made it PG-13 because they didn't really show anything. Hey, if you made it this far in the review, congratulations to you for riding that train of thought that I have as a person who thinks in a sometimes non-linear way. Hopefully my ramblings made some sort of sense to you. But like I always say, just because I love something doesn't mean you won't hate it. Just because I hate something doesn't mean you won't love it. What did you think of the first Purge? Did you enjoy it as much as I did?